All right, it's time for Torah Time Kids. If you're between the ages of 0 and 11, you're welcome to come up front and sit down. If your kiddo is underneath the age of 3, we ask that you come up with them, just in case they need your help at any point. All right, kiddos at home, you can take a seat or stand up, your preference, and you can get your hands up in the air. You just hold them there, and you can wait for the kiddos here in service. All right, everybody take a seat. I'm gonna move this over. Perfect. All right. All right. Following Samantha's example, we have our hands up and we start to wiggle them. Start to wiggle both of them. Maybe just one hand. What about the other hand? Are they both warm? Really slow, like a turtle. Slow. And then super fast, like a cheetah. All right, turn to your neighbor and shake their hand and say, Shabbat Shalom. If you don't have a neighbor, move closer to somebody and find a neighbor. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, friends. All right, it is indeed time for story time. Today, we are talking about something very important. Before I get there, though, I would just like to say, I love spending time with you. It is one of my favorite things about Shabbat. Now, what are some of your favorite things to do? I'll take 3 answers. Some of your favorite things to do. Anybody, anybody, anybody? Ruthie.
Well, I comb my hair.
You like to comb your hair and watch the Bible? Some Bible stories? Awesome. Yes. Swimming. That's pretty solid. Fritz.
I like watching.
You like watching some shows? Yeah. Down Under. Yes, The Rescuers Down Under. That was one of my favorite. All right, I was only taking 3. Sorry, ladies. I loved it. We'll come back to you, I promise. Hands back down. All right. That's very, very good to know. I appreciated knowing some things about each of you. All right. Have you ever been told to do something by maybe your parents or a teacher or some family members, and maybe it was something you didn't like maybe clean the dishes because that's so boring, or maybe helping your sibling even though you're like really annoyed with them? Just raise your hand if you've ever been told to do something that you maybe didn't like. Okay, good. Glad we're all on the same page, at least on this side of the group. Guess what? God also tells us what to do sometimes. And we don't always like it. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. And sometimes we just don't understand why he's telling us what to do. But it's important that we do it anyway. When God tells us to do something, we better do it. So this week, we're talking about do what God says. Repeat after me. Do what God says.
Do what God says.
Say it louder. Do what God says.
Do what God says.
Just the girls. Do what God says.
Do what God says.
Just the boys.
Do what God says.
Good job. All right. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, we're going to go way back in time to a desert and Moses. And Moses was with the Israelites going through the desert because they were escaping from Egypt. And then God told Moses, we're going to the promised land, but it's going to take a little while. So God took him to the promised land, and then Moses passed away. He went to be with God. But Joshua took his place, and he said, all right, we're going into the promised land. But as they looked at the promised land, they saw some pretty crazy things. They saw some giants, and they saw people in their promised land, and they said, what do we do? There's people in our promised land. So they came upon Jericho, which was a city in their promised land. And Joshua was like, hey, this is my land, so we're going to take it for God. So he sent his spies in, but the king of Jericho was like, I'm sending my soldiers after your spies. So the spies hid in the city, and a woman named Rahab helped them escape. So they went and told Joshua what happened, and thus a battle was about to get started. So Joshua went out, and he got all of his troops, and they got together, and then all of a sudden, a man with a sword appeared. And Joshua was like, oh my gosh, are you a friend or a foe? And the man with the sword said, I am neither. I am from God. And so he said, oh my gosh, it's an angel. He's come to give me a message. And the angel told him, this is how you're going to win the battle of Jericho. I need you to go march around with the priests and the soldiers all the way around the city. And Joshua was like, what? You want me to go march around a city? Are you sure? That's really what you said. No swords, no. He said, nope, just some trumpets. And you can't say anything at all. You have to be silent. And you just march around with the trumpets. He was like, okay. So they marched around the city one time a day for 6 days. Because they did what God says. Say it with me. Do what God says. That's right. So he did what God says. He marched around the city for 6 days. And then on the 7th day, oh no, I've forgotten. What happened on the 7th day? Can you all help me? Can you stand up on your feet? Let's march. I feel like if we march kind of like how Joshua was marching, then we would do it. Let's march this way. Okay, so Joshua's marching. It's on the 7th day. Let's go this way. And he's marching, and he's marching, and he marched around 7 times. I think we're remembering. And then they stopped, and he said, it is time for our shout of victory. Can you all shout with me? Victory! And the walls all fell down. And they won the city of Jericho, just like that. All because Joshua said, I'm going to do what God says. Even though it's a little crazy, I'm going to do it. And they won. That's the end of our story. Pretty cool, right? I'll repeat with me. Do what God says. Amen. All right. It is now time for our song. Since you're already on your feet, let's call our friend. We only have one friend today. It's our usual friend. Let's call her. Miss Alexia, where are you? Hey, you're coming from a new way today.
Surprise them.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, dear friend. All right, so we're all going to move over here. Let's march this way. Keep marching if you're not quite here yet. If you're already here, just march in place. All right, good job. Okay, so today we're singing a song about Jericho because we just talked about Jericho and the Battle of Jericho, right? The verses are a little hard, but that's okay. I'm going to teach you the chorus, which is pretty basic once we get this out. Okay, the chorus says, our God, you will tear down the walls. Our God, you are invincible. The strongholds crumble like castles of sand as we shout loud our Jericho song, all right? So when we talk about God, we're going to point up to the sky and hop. Good job. All right, when our walls tear down, we're going to pretend to tear down the walls. Tear them down. Good job. And then we point back at God and we hop up and down. Good job. And now, when we talk about God being invincible, we're just going to cover our heart with both hands and then make a really strong pose, all right? Good job. Now, we're going to turn to the side with our strong pose and throw down the wall. And then we're going to stand back up, and we're going to pretend that we have sand castles, and we're going to throw them down. Good job. That's pretty basic, huh? We could do that over and over again. Let's just go from the beginning. From the top, point up and hop, and let's tear down some walls. Good job. All right, let's cross our heart and create a really strong pose. Turn to the side, throw the wall down. Create a sandcastle, throw it down, and then point your hand back up like Superman. Yeah, good job. All right, the rest of them, you just follow along with me. It's okay, we're gonna have a good time. If you don't get it, just move. Just move. Just move. All right? All right.
You guys ready?
Oh. Oh, ushers, you may serve the people.
Yes, that.
And we will get some sound on the podium mic.
Oh, there we go. Check, check, hello.
Nice.
All right, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right.
We drown out the lies of the enemy. We're turning up the anthem that sets us free. Your mighty name will ever be the soundtrack of our victory. We're lifting up your praise like a battle cry. The thunder of your name breaks apart the night. Your matchless grace will ever be the soundtrack of our victory.
All right, point up.
Our God, you will tear down the walls. Our God, you are invincible. The strongholds crumble like castles of sand as we shout out our Jericho song. Yes, all around the world with revival fire. Our King shall reign and ever be the soundtrack of our victory.
And point up.
Our God, you will tear down the walls. Our God, you are invincible. The strongholds crumble like castles of sand as we